Welcome back to Dinner for Two. I'm Chef Hummel and I have a coffee rubbed lamb that I'm making for you today. We're going to be serving that with a warm broccoli salad and a caramelized onion sweet potato puree. So let's get started with our warm broccoli salad, okay? Coming over here. We're going to start off by, we're going to be thinly slicing some shallots. We're going to be slicing some button mushrooms. We're going to be putting a hard sear on that. So actually first I'm going to turn on my pan to get it preheating. Just get it at a nice medium-high heat. And then while it's preheating, we're going to slice up our shallots and our mushrooms. And now I'm going really, really thin on the shallot so that it gets a nice caramelization to it, cooks really quickly. And I'm going to be doing the same thing with my button mushrooms. All right, and so the beautiful thing about this cookware is no oil needed. So I'm just going to be able to, separate my little slices of shallot. And you can hear it already starting to sizzle. No oil in the pan, just pieces of shallot. We're just going to start by moving these around, getting a nice color on them. You can already smell the light onion flavor coming out. The shallot is it's an onion, but it's related to the garlic family and the onion family, so it has a nice garlicky, oniony flavor to it. So if you don't want to add onion and garlic to your pan, just use shallot, and it's a really nice light flavor, really nice. Now at this point, I'm going to add my button mushrooms, and I'm also going to add some portobellos, which I've already sliced and then cut into thirds. And then we're just going to let these cook, get a nice hard sear on them. And you're actually going to want to let these cook for about, 3 to 5 minutes, get some nice color on them. The thing about mushrooms is they have a lot of moisture in them, but it doesn't come out until you add salt or pepper. So a big mistake that people make is they'll add salt and pepper to their mushrooms right away. First, you want to let them get the nice caramelized color that you want, and then you're going to add your seasoning. So just let these cook for about 3 to 5 minutes and then add your salt and pepper. Okay, so now that we've got some nice color onto our mushrooms, and we're just going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. It's going to draw out that moisture and clean up the stuff that's on the bottom. Sort of a natural deglaze, if you will. Then we're going to add some beautiful grape tomatoes. We're going to add our broccoli. You don't want to let the tomatoes cook for too long. You want to just get them right as you're about to cover it up, because what will happen is the tomatoes will blister. They'll just naturally start to crack and all the juices will come out, and it'll be creating a nice little juice within the salad. And then we're just going to squeeze some nice limes into it. Couple limes will really bring out all the flavors from the stuff that's on the bottom of the pan and just add a nice citrus flavor to your broccoli. Then we're just going to cover our pan. We've got our ready temp valve open, and once that whistles, our broccoli salad is good to go. So, all right, so life happens. I forgot to add the oregano and the rosemary to my dish, so just quickly, pull the top off, add some nice fresh oregano, fresh rosemary. You can just leave the leaves whole. All you got to do is strip it off of the stalk. It's going to add some nice earthy flavors to it, but they'll just cook in, become really, really soft with the rest of your broccoli and your tomatoes. And so you don't have to worry about cutting them up, even though you'll see that rosemary, it starts off kind of like pine leaves, but it just eats really nice when you are eating your salad. While our broccoli salad is cooking, we're going to get our sweet potato puree going. So we're going to take our 2-quart saucepan, open it up, get rid of those limes, make sure that you keep a nice clean cooking area. Just going to give it a quick wipe. All right, and here I've got some beautiful sweet potatoes. I'm just going to put them into nice little cubes. The thing is, the smaller the surface area when you're trying to cook potatoes, the quicker they cook. So rather than your potatoes taking, say 40 minutes to get nice and soft for your mashed potatoes, if you cube them up, you'll be able to get them ready and, good to go and mashed in about, 15, 20 minutes. It just reduces your cooking time and it's really nice. So now that we've got our potatoes cut, we're gonna just put them into our 2-quart saucepan. Now remember, you beautiful thing, waterless, greaseless cooking. So we're just gonna pile our potatoes right on there, not worry about too much water. I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna add just about 2 ounces of water to the lid, toss it in our pot, and then good to put them on. Okay, so here I have about 2 ounces of water in the lid. A good rule of thumb with this cookware is 1 ounce of water for every quart when you're doing potatoes or really just any vegetables. It adds a nice little bit of moisture, keeps it from burning at the bottom, but you don't actually need to cover your product with water while you're cooking with this cookware. So 2 ounces of water in the 2-quart container. We're just gonna put that on a medium-high heat, and once it whistles, we are gonna put it on low, let it cook out, and then have some delicious sweet potato puree. Now that we've got our sweet potatoes cooking, it looks like our broccoli is just about to whistle. So we're gonna give it about another 45 seconds just so that it can really get cooking all the way through. Then we're gonna close the valve. Oh, see, you can hear it whistling. So then we're gonna close the valve. We're just gonna let it cook for another 2 minutes, let it cook out for another 5 minutes off of the heat, and then we're just gonna let it cool down. It's a warm salad that as you put the broccoli in the bowl and you let it cool down, all the flavors really start to blend together. You don't really want to serve this salad hot. You just want to make sure that it's nice and warm, a little above room temperature, but you know, it doesn't really matter, just not right out of the pan. So I'm going to turn it on low, close the valve, and in about 3 minutes, we're good to throw that into a bowl. So now I'm gonna go grab the lamb, grab some ingredients, and we're gonna get started on that. Okay, so now our lamb's been marinating in the fridge for about 45 minutes to an hour. I've got it marinating, easiest marinade you'll ever do. It's simply a bottle of beer. I use Sam Adams Oktoberfest. You want more of a maltier beer than a hoppier IPA. I really like Sam Adams, and then just squeeze a grapefruit into it, put it in the fridge, and you're good to go in about 45 minutes to an hour. We've got some paper towels. I'm just gonna take my lamb, blot off the remaining marinade so that the rub will still stick to it, but it's not too wet. You want it to be able to sear off in our pan nicely. Now I've got our lamb. We're working with a nice French rack of lamb. You can find this at your local butcher shop. It's cut from the rib. They clean the fat off of the rib, so it gives you a really nice appearance when you cut it into nice little lollipops at the end, but we'll get to that later. So we're gonna start with a beautiful rub that I have here. Like I said, we're making a coffee rubbed lamb, so we've got, coffee. I love dark roast, so I went with a nice dark roast. Brown sugar, salt, cayenne pepper, a little bit of cloves, a little bit of nutmeg. It really just gives you a whole bunch of earthy Caribbean flavors. And so, just gonna sprinkle that on. Make sure we get a good coat on both sides. Actually, coat on all sides. We want to make sure that we've got the end of the rib, the top of the rib, everything just nicely covered. All right, and now that we've handled the raw lamb, have rub all over our hands, let's give our hands a quick wash. So, I was coming back to take care of the broccoli, but I hear that our potatoes are calling me. So I'm just gonna close the valve, turn those down, let them cook for about another 10 minutes until they're nice and tender. You can mash them up nicely just right in the pot. Now we've got our broccoli. Oh, you can smell that rosemary and oregano, so we're just going to dump them nicely into our bowl. You can see the cooked broccoli, the blistered tomatoes, and then right on top you've got those mushrooms and shallots that you put a nice hard saute on. And that's gonna cool off nicely and the flavors are just gonna blend together and it's gonna be so nice. What I've done is I cleaned out our pan. One thing about this, this meal is that it's a great, 2-3 pan meal. The pans clean out so nicely that all I have to do is just give it a quick wipe. Now I'm putting the pan on a high heat. We're gonna get a really nice sear on our lamb, so we're just gonna let this preheat. Once it's all heated up, we're gonna sear off our lamb and then get some other ingredients into it, and we're gonna get a really nice beer, citrus, wine flavor into our earthy lamb, and it's gonna be delicious. So I brought a little water with me to show how you can tell if it's ready, because it doesn't radiate too much heat, but you can tell as soon as you add a bead of water that your water is beating nicely. Kind of looks like the movie Flubber in the pan. And you just get rid of that, and you know that your pan is hot enough. So we're just going to take our rack of lamb by the bones. And you can hear it searing. As soon as it hits the pan, you get this nice waft of, coffee, and then it hits you with a little bit of brown sugar, and then you can start to get the rosemary. It's so nice. So we're gonna let this sear for about 2 minutes on each side. So we're just gonna let this cook off. I'm gonna take a pair of tongs and I'm gonna turn it. Then we're gonna deglaze with a little bit of red wine, as well as you're gonna wanna reserve about 2 ounces of your beer and grapefruit juice mixture, and everything's just gonna come together really, really nicely. You're gonna get earth, you're gonna get citrus, you're just gonna have a delicious, delicious lamb. Like I said, life happens. We're actually not gonna wait the full 2 minutes. We don't want our rub to burn. So we're gonna flip it over to the other side. It's cooking a little bit faster than I expected, so I'm gonna turn down the heat. And it looks like we're actually already good to glaze, which is good because, who doesn't like eating faster than we originally intended? So we're just going to take our wine, cover it up, and we're gonna make sure that our ready temp valve is open. And once that whistles, we're gonna let it cook for about another 10 minutes, and then we're ready to eat. But while our lamb is cooking, since it's a caramelized onion sweet potato puree, we need to caramelize some onions. First, I'm gonna tend to the lamb. I'm just gonna turn it off, turn it down to the lowest heat on the burner. Get that cooking, gonna cook for about another 10 minutes. Feels like our onion pan is ready to go. So we're just gonna add our onions. Get those moving around. Make sure that you have onion touching every bit of the bottom of the pan. Now, there's a lot of way that you can do caramelized onions. A lot of people say slow and low. A lot of people say as hot as you can. I like to start off really, really hot. Make sure that I get, a nice first shock into the pan, a nice first bit of heat as it's in the pan. And then as I'm cooking, slow it down. I don't want my onions to burn before the sugars inside of them caramelize nicely. I want them all to end up being nice and golden brown. So I'm going to lower my heat to about a medium low. I had it on the highest heat, and I'm gonna turn it down to about a medium low and just let them cook off. It's gonna take a couple minutes, but in the end, you're gonna have nice golden brown caramelized onions. One trap that a lot of people fall into is they're so tempted to keep the onions constantly moving. You wanna make sure that they're all coating the bottom of the pan, and you wanna make sure that they don't burn, but what really makes the sugars caramelize is the constant contact with the heat. So you want to let them sit, move them around so that a side that hasn't been cooked is touching the pan, let them sit, and then keep repeating that way. You don't wanna keep them moving the entire time. Okay, so I've been cooking these onions for about 4 or 5 minutes now. As you can see, they're starting to get really, really nice and golden brown. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna deglaze with a little bit of white wine. It's going to take all of this golden color from the bottom and actually bleed them up into the onions. It's also gonna add a nice little flavor to the onions. So just trickle a little bit in. And I think I want to add a little bit more. All right. So it's always good to make sure all your wine is cooked off. That's not going to be a problem because, like I said, we've got our onions on a fairly high heat. Just at this point, actually scrape off all that beautiful color. And now at this point, I'm actually just going to let them sit on a really low heat so that they can continue to cook a little bit without burning while we wait for our potatoes to finish and our lamb to finish, and then we'll be ready to eat. Now that our sauce is bubbling away, you can see it's been reduced to about 1/4 of the quantity that was there before. What we're gonna do is just turn it off and take these carrots out. You're gonna wanna use these later for when you're plating because you've got some nice coffee flavor, wine flavor, citrus flavor all up in your carrots, plus they're a beautiful orange color that you can add to your plate. Just gonna set this aside and use it as a sauce for your lamb. Once again, life always seems to happen. I didn't want to break up my caramelized onions too much. Look at how beautiful those are. So I'm just gonna add them to my sweet potato puree right now, because what's a caramelized onion sweet potato puree without its caramelized onions? So get those into the pot. Just fold those in nicely. All right, now that we've got our puree complete, we've got our sauce ready, we've got our broccoli salad ready, we are ready to cut our lamb. So now that we've got a rack of lamb, we can just cut it into nice little lollipops by going between the bones. And as you can see, the bones actually angle a little bit. So you're just gonna wanna make sure that your knife goes nicely between, you're gonna wanna make sure that your knife goes nicely between the bones, and it creates nice little lamb lollipops. So we're just going to give this broccoli salad a little stir. As you can see, it still has a tiny bit of steam left, but it's, warmed down so that it'll all just blend together nicely. So we're gonna get a little bit of that on the plate. You can see, the nice red of the tomatoes that just blistered nicely. You've got the green of the broccoli. You've got some shallots, you've got some mushrooms in there. Then we're just gonna add a nice little scoop of our puree to the pan. You can see the caramelized onions peeking out. We're just gonna set up our lamb nicely. Just, nicely fold the bones within to each other. And then we're gonna take those delicious carrots, stack them at the bottom. Then we're just gonna steal a nice little sprig of oregano, garnish the top. And there you have a coffee rubbed lamb with caramelized onion sweet potato puree and a warm broccoli salad for you. And remember, after you stack up your carrots all nicely, give yourself that nice bright orange garnish, add that sauce that we spent all that time reducing. It'll give it a nice little flavor and a great little accent. As always, thank you very much for sharing your kitchen with me. Remember, at Dinner for Two, life is delicious. Chef Hummel signing out.